It's just that I got some breaking news. The Chinese ambassador received satellite image of floating objects in the southern corridor. This floating object is 22 meters long and 30 meters wide. I wouldn't know. This is all I have.
We are here waiting for you 40 days. We want to know what happened, what the reality is.
If the plane went into the sea as a suicide, there'd be much less debris instead of blowing up at high altitude.
It's just that I got some breaking news.
A handwritten note on a ripped sheet of paper.
This is all I have.
But the message scrawled on it, potentially a major breakthrough in the hunt for Flight MH370.
The Chinese ambassador received satellite image of floating objects in the southern corridor, and they will be sending ships to verify.
An unexpected and dramatic development. It took everyone by surprise, including the Malaysian authorities.
I wouldn't know. This is all I have. This is all I have.
The information from Beijing had been telephoned through while the press conference was still going on.
Allow me to follow this lead by concluding this PC early, then I will give you an answer.
Okay, we conclude this session. Thank you very much.
And this is the Chinese satellite image. It's distinct. A large object 22 meters long and 13 meters wide. Taken on Tuesday, it shows an object 1,500 miles off the Australian coast, floating in the Indian Ocean. The size makes it sound similar to the debris spotted last Sunday by an American satellite. So could it be one and the same? Well, that previous sighting was made 120 kilometers away, meaning the new one is close to, but outside, the current search zone. Like a complex jigsaw puzzle, are the pieces beginning to fit together?
We've got three objects now. They are of the right sort of size for an aircraft, so that is all possible. But in addition to that, it collocates with the southern corridor, with the location where the Australian Navy was searching, which I suspect was because they knew the track the aircraft followed after it passed over Sumatra, information they might have got from Indonesia. So it all fits together, and this is possible. We're moving towards the beginning of the intense search for this aircraft.
It could be a different piece of debris, or another image of the same suspected wreckage photographed by an American satellite. Either way, this is still a hugely significant development. The two images were taken 24 hours apart. If it's the same object, then its position will show how it's moved over that time. This will help the search teams to focus their hunt. If it's a different object, then that points to a possible debris field, and crucially, in the same area which is being scoured.
If an aircraft impacts water at high speed, it fragments into many, many small pieces. This is not the case. If this debris is from the aircraft, it indicates a lower impact touchdown on the water, and I use the word touchdown. It is entirely possible that there is still a survivable aspect to this.
A small flotilla of ships from China is sailing right towards the search area. Crucially, the fleet includes a refueling vessel. This will allow ships to stay out in the ocean for a long time. The Australian and New Zealand Air Force planes scanning the area can only stay above the search field for a few hours before having to fly back to their base in Perth. But despite the limitations, they take to the skies at first light, knowing they carry the hopes of hundreds of desperate families. The new dawn brings with it fresh optimism, the chance of finally ending the mystery of Flight MH370. These are skilled aviators, but this is a testing mission, flying low over turbulent waters, waves as high as 5 meters. The first 2 days of searches yielded nothing, and there's no sightings so far, indicating where the missing airliner and the 239 people it was carrying on board could be.
We did managed to achieve, in light of the conditions, 100% area coverage. However, we weren't able to find any evidence of any wreckage or survival equipment from the missing Malaysian aircraft.
But the message to the heartbroken families is we'll never give up.
It is a very remote area, but we intend to continue the search until we're absolutely satisfied that further searching would be futile, and that day is not in sight. We will continue the effort. We'll continue to liaise with our international allies in this search, but at this stage we are planning for it to continue indefinitely.
This is now one of the biggest international searches ever undertaken. The Australian coordinated air mission will now take strength from the latest Chinese sighting.
We've got 6 aircraft in the area. Later today, my understanding is that an Australian naval vessel will be in the area. As some of you know, there are aircraft and vessels from other nations that are joining this particular search because, tenuous though it inevitably is, this is nevertheless credible evidence.
But for all the promises and suspected leads, there's still nothing for the heartbroken families. Their loved ones have been missing without trace for 2 weeks. And as the days pass, hope fades, the emptiness filled by fury.
You can't go! You can't leave here! Listen now, we are here, waiting for you 40 days. We want to know what happened, what the reality is. We not here only listen to you, we want to ask you.
We are united. We just sit here, wait for them peacefully, and ask them to give us an explanation, okay?
Give back my relatives. Tell the truth. They are lying. We still don't know if our relatives are alive. We cannot let them go. Give back my relatives. Tell the truth.
All the families agree that the Malaysian government has been delaying, concealing and cheating us. They have been fooling the families of the people and the whole world. We request the Malaysian government to tell us the truth and give us back our kin.
The Malaysian authorities have been heavily criticised for their handling of the crisis. The Chinese families think the truth is being covered up. Today their plight was acknowledged.
I know the roller coaster has been incredibly hard for everyone, especially for the families. We hope and pray this difficult search will be resolved and bring closure to those whose relatives were on board.
Coming up in part 2, a senior FBI air crash investigator tells us what he thinks may have happened to Flight MH370.
Do you think it was a criminal act?
I do.
Why?
Based on the fact that we haven't found anything now, and it's been over 2 weeks. I don't think if it was a catastrophic event, I don't think the debris would all be sunk.
And we learn in more detail about the final moments on board. The flight before contact was lost forever.
It's just that I got some breaking news. The Chinese ambassador received satellite image of floating objects in the southern corridor. This floating object is 22 meters long and 30 meters wide. I wouldn't know. This is all I have.
We are here waiting for you 40 days. We want to know what happened, what the reality is.
If the plane went into the sea as a suicide, there'd be much less debris instead of blowing up at high altitude.
2 satellite images taken 24 hours apart. Do they show wreckage from Flight MH370? If this is material from the Boeing 777, then we will be closer to knowing where the plane could be and discovering the fate of the 239 people on board. But the suspected wreckage will also help air crash investigators begin to understand why the jet failed to reach its destination. Flight TWA 800 exploded and crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near New York in July 1996. It was just 12 miles into its journey. All 230 people on board the flight to Rome were killed. It was one of the deadliest aviation disasters in US history. At first, terrorism was suspected, but following one of the most extensive investigations ever undertaken by the FBI, it was concluded that the disaster was probably caused by mechanical or electrical failure. James Colstrom led the criminal investigation into the tragedy. His experience tells him Flight MH370's disappearance is no accident.
Based on the fact that we haven't found anything now, and it's been over 2 weeks, and yes, it's a big ocean. Yes, we had the advantage of seeing this fireball in TWA Flight 800. We don't have that. But, you know, with the assets that have been put out there, all the aviation assets, the overhead satellites, of many nations reporting on this. I don't think if it was a catastrophic event, I don't think the debris would all be sunk, because some of that debris floats no matter what you want. You know, it's plastic and it's honeycombed, and you know, you can't stop it from floating. If the plane went into the sea as a suicide, there'd be much less debris instead of blowing up at high altitude. But I just don't see how it's possible that there was some fire aboard the plane, or there was some mechanical failure that kept it flying. You know, if it was flying on an automatic pilot, it wouldn't be changing altitude. It wouldn't be going left and right, making 90-degree turns, dropping altitude to 5,000 feet. You know, somebody was flying that airplane.
Early suspicion fell on the Malaysian flight's captain, 53-year-old Zahari Ahmed Shah. He's a vastly experienced pilot with more than 18,500 flying hours under his belt.
He was a volunteer in the community program that I organized. At the end of the program, there was this guy helping to stack chairs to clean up that place. And not having met him before, I asked, who is this man? And I was told he works for Malaysia Airlines. I went to say thank you to him, and he introduced himself, giving me his name card. And when I saw he was a captain of a 777, you know, that's the kind of humble person that Captain Zahari is.
His first officer was Fariq Abdul Hamid. He's 27 years old and joined Malaysia Airlines in 2007. He was fairly new to this model of aircraft, a Boeing 777. CCTV shows the two men going through security on their way to board the flight that evening. We're told they did not specifically request to fly together. Police have searched their homes, talking to friends and neighbours. And they found this simulator in Captain Zahari's house. Investigators say that some data on it has been deleted. Could the flight manifest hold the answers? Investigators are scrutinising every name on it, but even now they say they still haven't received details for each passenger.
I want to know everything about them. I want to know who they are, what they stand for, who they talk to, what do their telephones say, what does their hard drives and their computers say. We really want to know an awful lot about them. You know, do they show up on any criminal list anywhere in the world? Do they show up on any, counterintelligence list? Are they associates?
This transcript, obtained by the Telegraph, appears to show a routine exchange between MH370's pilot and Malaysian Air Traffic Control. Just after 20 to 1 in the morning, MH370 makes contact with Air Traffic Control, saying they've left the airport. The exchanges will be familiar to every commercial pilot, nothing unusual. 40 minutes into the flight, as the plane leaves Malaysian airspace, Air Traffic Control asks MH370 to contact Ho Chi Minh City. The plane acknowledges and says goodnight. This was the last contact. Moments later, the transponder was turned off. Investigators still believe this was deliberately done, but they don't know why.
The original transcript of the conversation between MH370 and the Malaysian Air Traffic Control is with the investigation team, where it is being analysed. As is standard practice in investigations of this sort, the transcript cannot be publicly released at this stage. I can, however, confirm that the transcript does not indicate anything abnormal.
A fortnight after the plane's disappearance, and we're learning some more about the men, women and children who were on board this flight. Chandrika Sharma was heading to Mongolia via Beijing to attend a United Nations meeting on food and agriculture. Her husband and daughter are inconsolable.
These have been very anxious moments. The family is being updated while what the Malaysian Airlines said, that don't believe any news channel, don't believe the press, just believe what we are telling you. And they do hold their press conferences, and really there's been no outcome out of it. It's been a fair amount of agony in that, being anxious. I mean, we've heard so many stories since the beginning of the whole incident. I mean, it was so it's been changing every day, and everybody's anxiously waiting.
The youngest passenger is 2 years old, the oldest 76. 7 of them are children yet to reach their 5th birthdays. 26-year-old Yu Wen-Chao is originally from Mongolia. He moved to study business at Hull University in England. He went back to see his girlfriend. Mukdesh Mukherjee and his wife, Xiaomo Bei, had been on a beach holiday together in Vietnam. Their 2 young sons are waiting for them at home. "15 different nationalities were flying to Beijing that night. Among them, 153 from China, 38 from Malaysia, 5 from India, 4 French, 3 from the United States. 2 Iranians on board became initial suspects, but seem to have been ruled out. 35-year-old Ju Kung is a stuntman who was due to start work on a new series for Netflix in Malaysia next week. He was on his way to Beijing to see his 2 young children. Bob and Kathy Lawton are from Springfield Lakes in Australia. They have 3 daughters, and they're described as doting grandparents. Paul Weeks is a mechanical engineer. He accidentally left his wedding ring and watch behind at home as he travelled to Mongolia for work. Adrian Waterloo on the right is 17. Zhao Yan on the left is 18. They were on their way to school in Beijing. And 34-year-old Hu Xiaoning was on his way home with his 3-year-old daughter, Hu Xiu. Two weeks on and we still do not know where these missing passengers are. But we have 2 separate images that could be wreckage from the missing airliner.
My biggest concern is that if we are not able to identify the debris, having to go back to the 2 corridors is a huge and massive area. This is unprecedented. I've spoken to so many experts. I've spoken to nearly every leader in the world, and it's unprecedented in the scale in which the search and rescue is being done, but it's also unprecedented in the complexity in which we have to work in moving forward. Now that is something that I find perplexing, not frustrating, because I'm determined to continue.
A massive international search is underway. From the air and on sea. Everything possible is being done to find clues to help solve one of the greatest aviation mysteries of modern times. But each passing day brings more heartache for the families, waiting to see their loved ones finally come home.